I gotta turn off solitaire. Hold on. Okay, I think I'm ready to go.
Jewel in the background.
I don't know. I was like, I don't know how to contribute to this right now, and I actually opened up solitaire. I meant to open up something else completely different, and solitaire opened up, and I got completely distracted.
Remember what we were talking earlier about ADHD? Hello,
Welcome everybody back. Oh,
God damn it, Ben.
okay.
Hello,
we're just
everybody.
Do one of those talking ends.
Hello, everybody. Ben, shut the fuck up. I will strangle it. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Chaos Continuum podcast. It's been a while. We are back. We did record an episode about The Boys that's been entirely trashed. It was awful. Me and Ben were falling asleep during it. But instead, for a return to form today, we are back with a very wonderful, brilliant guest, ICECOLDSNAKE. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for that intro.
Woo! Let's go.
Ooh. Yeah, somebody get your beer hats. We got a lot to talk about today. We've already been talking a little bit. We've kind of rambled on for like half an hour already before we started recording. But there's a lot to talk about. I want to get into kind of like content in general, stuff like that, motivations, kind of things in that regard, and maybe the kind of things that we make content about. Because from a lot of what I've seen, a lot of what you do is like, is it exclusively like 360 retrospectives, or is it just so happen to have been a lot of 360 focused games on your channel?
Yeah, so I maybe it'd help if I gave you like the background on when I started, because I just started my channel in August of last year. So I just had my 1 year anniversary of having my channel. I actually had the notes up. I pulled it up the other day just to see it, but it basically I started the channel wanting to talk about like Diablo 4 and action RPGs like Path of Exile, and I just like to make like joke videos. Kind of, I've always watched YouTube since like 2004 or 5. I mean, I'm 30 now, just so everyone knows. Like, you know, I'm an OG YouTube enjoyer at this point. But I always liked like the Spoony one and AVGN and JonTron. So I've always just made like super jokey videos that are in that style. And I tried so hard to make the ARPGs work. They just weren't for me. But luckily, some people I met along the way in the ARPG scene, they just like started a podcast with me, and we got to talking about, you know, what games have I been part of community of, and one of them is Tom Clancy's End War. It was an RTS game that was a Tom Clancy name. It wasn't very popular back in the day, but I was one of the top 10 players on that game, and the server shut down in like 2012, 2013. So it's been a long time since I've even really thought about it. And so when we were talking about the podcast and I was editing it, I always like to put in visuals during our podcast. And just seeing the trailers again just like brought all this nostalgia back for me. So I decided, like, why don't I just make a video that like hits on all those nostalgia pieces for me? And I'm sure there's plenty of other people out there who might enjoy it too. And just so happens that like now there's 130,000 views on that video, and I published it back in the end of April. And from there, somebody asked me like, hey, why don't you just do a stream of like playing some games on the 360? And I just started enjoying myself playing games again because I was playing 360 era games. And from there, I've just like gone on to collecting 360 games. And I'm like, why not just go back and play these? Because there's a lot that I had never even played. And that's kind of where I'm starting, is like these ones that I never played. And it's been a blast. Like right now I'm playing through Rainbow Six Vegas. And like I played a little bit of Vegas 2, but I never played the first one. So like it's really fun to go through these games again.
That's really cool. I remember I did go back and I was like going through your channel or whatever today in preparation for this, and I watched like that very first video, at least the first like public one on your channel, where it's like welcome to the channel or whatever, where you're talking all about how like you're going to do.
Watch the second one.
But yeah,
actually watch the third one.
But you're talking about all that with like Diablo and stuff, and I found it like very funny how like in that video itself you're talking about how like people say that like gaming is worse nowadays, and you don't think it's the case, or at least like the reasons that people point out isn't the case, and how you're going to go into like doing gameplay type stuff with Diablo and stuff like you said, and then now you've kind of almost reversed it because now you've gone back. And I was watching that Frontlines, right, is the most recent one. where
Yeah,
you
Frontlines.
like you're playing this game that came out in 2008, right? Yeah, way
Yeah,
way back
2008.
when. And like one of the things you remarked in the video was that like the game doesn't have any like microtransactions or any of like the things that make modern games bad, like by the most like traditional remarks. And I remember like watching that and watching the other one like back to back, and I was like, oh, there's been like a almost a total 180 here. And it's really interesting to see that like development of it. Not that it's like a bad thing or anything, but
Yeah, I would say I see a lot of these videos that are like modern gaming sucks and modern gaming is bad now, why live service sucks, all these things. And I almost just want to like point my finger at those people and like laugh because if that's really what you think, then like you're a little jaded. Like, yes, there are
yeah.
things and systems that suck nowadays. There's a prioritization of some of that monetization and that kind of thing. But even if you go back to what everyone calls like the golden era, there were still a lot of problems. I mean,
Yeah.
people seem to forget that Electronic Arts and even Microsoft was allowing it to have like online passes. So not only would you have to pay for Xbox Live, but if you wanted to play online and you bought a used copy of a game, you had to pay $10 just for the privilege to play online.
Yeah.
That was one. I found the code for that actually in my copy of Bulletstorm I just bought, and that's what jogged that memory for me. But it's been like a long stream of that kind of stuff, and I still have lots of games that come out these days that I still enjoy to play. It's just for me, I'm diving through some of that era because, well, I get a little bit nostalgic for it.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But also, like I said, there was a lot of games from back then that are nostalgic to me or nostalgic to other people, and I kind of want to like experience that, and I try to like be fair as I go into it. Like I didn't play Frontlines before, so I wanted to just kind of give it like an actual honest effort to play it and see what it was like, and also dive into the multiplayer and just like see like what is the multiplayer actually about. And so that was fun. Like I really liked sort of diving into the nostalgia, not just for me, but for like the other people and like giving them a fair shake at it too. Because there's plenty of people who love those kind of games. Like even if they were just like 6s or 7s out of
Yeah.
10, like they love that game. So why not like I just have a chance to see why.
I think that's definitely there's a big portion of people who say that like games nowadays are bad and older games were way better. And I think a lot of that is that people like confuse why they think older games were better. Like they're not that older games are bad necessarily, but like even if you look at a big series like Gears of War, obviously I've talked a lot about. That's how I found your channel. Was you came into my stream and you asked me to watch your Gears of War retrospective. It was a really good video, by the way. I I even promoted
I'll
it.
say
I'm in the-
this to anyone who's like watching this. If you're a small creator, like don't be afraid or ashamed to like go and just ask people. Like I know people will say like self promotion's kind of looked down upon, but like if you're trying to grow a business or a dream that you have, just go out there, and if you get said no to 199 times but one person says yes, like you said yes.
Well, yeah,
I get to talk
exactly.
to you
Like
now,
it
and
doesn't.
I get to have fun talking to you now.
Yeah, you don't
Yeah.
lose anything by asking and them telling you no, right?
Exactly.
Like, but like a big thing with like even a series like Gears of War, like Gears of War 4 and 5 are just objectively better games than like Gears of War 1 and 2. Like people have their personal slights to them about gameplay tuning and balancing and modes and writing and all that kind of stuff. But just like from a more objective standpoint, like they're just so much more complex machines. There's so much more going on under the hood, like to say, and all this different stuff. Like they are objectively technologically superior to the older games. I think a lot of people like intertwine what they were like when they played these older games and like kind of what games are now and what situations they might be in now. Because if I go back, I'll probably tell you that Assassin's Creed Odyssey was a great fucking game, but that's because I was like probably like a sophomore, junior in high school when that game came out, and I was able to sit down and play it for 12 hours a day, and that was pretty fucking cool. But I can't sit down and play a game for 12 hours a day anymore because 9 to 5,
Well, it's like
children, stuff like that.
recently I've gone back and played through GTA 3 again. Yeah, which I remember thinking was like a profound, amazing game. And my God, do I hate it now? Yeah, like comparatively to everything, I have not been that angry at a game in forever. The game mechanics are awful. The way the game runs is awful. And I'm sitting there, but I remember just thinking, man, this game is amazing. When I was like younger and I played it, you know what I mean, right? And then I come back, and it's kind of like that whole like objectively GTA 5 is just significantly better than this round polygon game.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. It's funny you said Odyssey, because I played that during the lockdown. I finally got around to playing it. And it was one of those games where like I played it all the way through to the end. And I think it ended up clocking at like 65 hours or so for me.
Yeah.
But I looked back after I finished it and I was like, I don't think I was enjoying myself for like
you're just kind of going
those
through
hours. I just was
like
going through it.
Yeah.
I think the time constraint kind of like you have like in adulthood versus like when we were younger playing games, it kind of forces you to realize like how much of games are just kind of like I've tried to go through like one of my favorite games in high school was The Witcher 3. And I still think it's like a great game, like the atmosphere of it, the writing and stuff like that. But like if I go through and I try to like play through it now, like when I don't have 16 hours to like come home after school and just like totally zone out on it for the rest of the day. Now that I like have to like force myself to play for like no more than like 2 or 3 hours at a time, I'm like, I cannot get into this. Like this is just not for me anymore. Like I just don't have the time to like sink my teeth into something like this. And it, like I think the issues that it has are a lot more glaring when you're looking at them in like these bite-sized chunks rather than just going through it. Because if you played for 10 hours, that one issue you might have had at like hour 3, you've completely forgotten about. But if you sit down, you only play it for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and you run into an issue for the first half hour of that, you're going to be thinking about that the whole time. But
still haven't finished The Witcher 3. I've been like on the last
game.
like maybe like 3 or 4 hours, and
I've been trying to slowly beat that game for like the past, I don't know, 4 years or whatever. Like I don't think I've beat the first chapter yet. I've been doing it chunk by chunk. Like it's such a beefy game.
It's great.
I think
there's
that's
a lot
part of it too is as a lot of people I know have said that same thing, like the beginning of The Witcher 3 especially. It's like it's human nature to experience that new thing and then it becomes familiar to you, and in a way familiar is comforting. And so I find myself playing the beginnings of games over and over again but never getting past a certain point. And The Witcher 3 is like the perfect example of that, because that first act, or that first like prologue act, or whatever you really want to call it, when you're in I think Velen,
the White Orchard,
where you are. Yeah, the White Orchard, that's it. And then maybe like the beginning of the next section when you
when you're like with the
time you
Baron
get to
and
Kira
everything.
is basically when in the Baron, like that section is so comforting and it's so like contained and perfect that once you start getting past that, it starts to open up and it becomes unfamiliar to you, and so you want to just go back to the beginning.
It's also like I think it's a testament to like The Witcher 3 specifically, and a couple other like bigger RPG open worlds do this. Is like The Witcher 3, like that first 4 or 5 hours from like the White Orchard all the way through like to the Baron's quest is like it perfectly encapsulates everything about like The Witcher's the universe, the storytelling, all that kind of stuff, and then the rest of the game is just more of that. So it's kind of like you get like this perfect chunk of like the universe and the characters and everything going on with it. And then it's like, okay, now here's 60 more hours of that, plus 2 massive expansions that are practically a whole new other game. And it's like, oh, God, well, I don't know.
I think my issue with games right now for me, it's not even like an actual bad issue. It's that I struggle playing good games because I don't want to stop playing them. You know what I mean? So like I will actively avoid, like I'll enjoy a game and I'll stop playing it until I know I have 4 days of free time. Yeah. Because I'll be like, I'm just not going to go to work today. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I like avoid that and continue playing games like Overwatch until I have those set of free days, and I'll just go ham on it the whole way in. Because it like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to stop. It's so much fun, right?
Yeah. That's like exactly have you played Baldur's Gate, Ice?
Oh yeah, Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah, or 3 specifically.
Yeah,
but
I mean, I've played all of them.
I never played the original ones, but I was big on D&D in high school, stuff like that. And then last year, I took like a week-long vacation from work for my 21st birthday, and I bought Baldur's Gate 3 on like I got Baldur's Gate 3.
I'm the boomer of the group, I guess.
a little bit, yeah. Because Ben's even younger than I am. But go away, thumbs up. But I had gotten it on like the
Ben can't even legally have what I have here. So
Well, not
Probably
well where I live. I can.
In Canada, he can.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah, he gets to skirt by. But the weekend before I took that week-long vacation, I got Baldur's Gate 3. And at the time, my fiance wasn't living with me. So, like, they were just here for the weekend. And I, like, started it, like, Saturday night. And then I stayed up all night long. And I played it all day Sunday. And then they, like, went home Sunday. And then they came back, like, that Wednesday or Thursday. And I just had not stopped. I had, like, taken breaks to, like, go to sleep. But for the most part, I like took that week off and I was like, I'm going to get so much like video stuff done. I'm not going to have to go to work. I can get all this extra stuff done. I can focus on doing whatever. I put 100 hours into Baldur's Gate 3 in those first couple days.
It was trying to get you to do something was horrible.
Awful.
It was like, hey, are we going to record? Are we going to talk about stuff? And just nothing. Just radio silence. And I'm like, and he comes back, sorry guys, I was playing Baldur's Gate. Like, okay, man, thanks, dude.
Dude, my dwarf had some muscle mummies to chase after, and by God did he.
What was your build in BG3?
My very first one was a Dwergar paladin, and then he eventually becomes like an Oathbreaker by the end.
Okay.
It was a lot of fun.
I did a female dwarven fighter whose entire kit was around picking up enemies and throwing them at each other.
That
Yeah.
is
Like I used no weapons. I just picked up enemies or I picked up weapons off the ground and threw them at each other.
Adore the creativity that the game gives you, because like I've done probably 7 different playthroughs like on my own, just like going through like each and every class and option, and like a Dark Urge playthrough and like a Paladin playthrough and a Fighter playthrough, and like most recently like me and Ben on stream nights now we're playing like a multiplayer game of Baldur's Gate where we just kind of like stupid our way through the realms. And it's just so much fun. Like the things you can do in that game, like to kind of like chain stuff up in a way, or however that like the different way that things work. And it's just there's so much to it. Like even now that we're playing, like after I've already put like several hundred hours into this game, and it's like technically my 8th playthrough, we're still running into new stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, I've never seen that before.
Well, it was like the boulder at the Goblin Camp.
Yeah.
They got Indiana Jones.
Boulder. The you know that goblin you meet like going into the goblin camp who's got like the warg or whatever, and he tries to make you like put your face in the shit. They have an Indiana Jones boulder slightly off to the side that one of the archers can shoot and then bring it down, and it like crushes you. Like if you're standing right there talking to that goblin, it'll crush you. And I had never seen it before until me and Ben were like, we're just gonna kill them all. And I hit the main dude, and the archer immediately turned, shot the boulder, and it fucked up me and Karlak immediately. And I was like, oh well, I didn't expect this to happen. I never seen that before.
Oh, it was an awesome moment.
Yeah, there's just so much to that game.
My favorite moment was with the throwing. We found out that you can. We ran into a room in. I'm forgetting the name, but Lae'zel is a what's the
Crash?
The race. Yeah, when you're inside there, like fortress, when you go to talk to the queen or whatever, and she can wish you away. Yeah. So when you're coming back out of there, coming backwards after you've like taken the what's the freaking mace called?
The Blood of Lathander.
It's been so long since I played it. Yeah. Once you take that mace and then they all attack you, we were coming into one of the rooms, and one of the people decided, let's just cast grease in the room so they all fall down. So he cast grease, but then I'm a fighter, so I can't get in the room, and 2 of us were melee, so none of us couldn't get in the room. So I just jumped, because my jump was so far, but it was so funny because I'm a dwarven fighter, right? So like super small, jumping super far. I jumped into the room, I grabbed an enemy, and I threw them up at one of the chandeliers, the braziers that's hanging from the ceiling. So you throw them at that, and it makes it fall and set the grease on fire.
Yeah.
So it set the grease on fire, and it killed me.
Yeah, there's so much fun, like wacky bullshit that just goes on in that game.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
It's great. It really is like it gives you that feeling of playing D&D like authentically. That like no other game, even other games that are like D&D inspired. Like they made a game based on the Icewind Dale like a while ago. I think
have you played
came out
Icewind
sometime
Dale
last year. the campaign.
Have you played the original like Icewind
Oh,
Dales?
not the original. I have like the Rime of the Frost Maiden book that I used to run with some friends in high school, but I'd never played like the original one.
If you're a big fan of D&D, you should try to find. I think it's kind of hard to emulate on Windows 10 or 11, but I'm sure you can find a DOS box or something. I don't even think it's
Oh,
DOS.
I'm not
but
even. I'm on
Temple
Mac.
of. Oh, okay. Well, whatever. Sorry for you.
Yeah, it's real. No, finally, somebody agrees with me. What a horrible decision to make.
I agree with that, but I'm stuck with the Mac. So,
do you remember the first day that you bought it? And we all just shit on you like aggressively.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, there's a game called Temple of Elemental Evil.
Okay.
If you haven't played that, it's Tim Kaine is one of the ones who worked on that, and he's one of the original Fallout creators.
Ooh, okay.
It's probably like before Baldur's Gate 3. It's like my favorite implementation of D&D. It's I think it's 3.0 or 3.5. It's like right around then. But it's a great turn-based strategy RPG. Yeah.
That'd be fun.
It's an old one, so if you're okay with gold graphics, but
yeah, like I've never, like when I first got into D&D, it was like my sophomore, maybe the end of my freshman year in high school. Like I had another friend who like was big on Ren fairs and everything like that, get me into it, and because I have whatever things going on in my head, and I had a lot of free time in high school. What I ended up doing, and what I still do now with like some old work buddies of mine and stuff, is I make all of my like D&D type stuff that we ever play in person is all homebrew. Like most recently I made like a whole system based around Warhammer 40K. So like they're running a campaign where I'm running a campaign for them where they're just playing as Space Marines, and it's kind of set up. It's kind of like inspired by D&D, like the way that D&D mechanics work, but it's its own thing there. But I haven't played like D&D like 5e or anything proper in a long time. But
I mean, the last I played was 3.5.
So. What back when it was a thing, or
it was right as 4 was coming out. So we just played 3.0 and 3.5. I think we played like a modified. Some things from 3.5 were brought in, but mostly 3.0.
Yeah, that's cool. Trying to think what else I had. My brain is totally blanking. I was thinking of something that we were talking about before we started recording, and now I've totally blanked on it, obviously.
I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah. Oh, I knew that. It was such a good conversation, too. It was such a good conversation, and here we are. Was it about, I know we talked a little bit about kind of the content that you guys both make and stuff like that.
I wanted to ask you about, like, where inspirations, I know you said you, like, got it a lot from, like, creators like John Tron and stuff, like, on original YouTube or like old school YouTube, but like where do you think a lot of inspiration for you to make videos like now kind of comes from? Is it still just those inspirations? Because like for me, a lot of what I do has been mostly inspired by like maybe 3 or 4 creators that I watch, like Ray Civic and White Light, who do these really long years later videos. And I know even like that time you came into my stream and you were asking me about like that, like to watch your video, and you asked me about like my years later videos on Gears of War, and immediately I felt like a fraud because I was like, they're not good years later videos because they're kind of like just super nostalgia baits. Like they're not like, they don't serve as like what a typical years later type video is like kind of supposed to be. But like that's something that I've gone and changed my formula. Like I plan on making, or I'm in the process of making, a Gears 5 years later because the 5-year anniversary of Gears 5 is coming up in about a month or so. And that one is entirely, it's much more in that same vein of what I initially set out to do that I never got to do in the first place.
All right, what was the question? The wife had to come in.
Basically, what kind of like, where do you find yourself deriving most of your inspiration from? Like nowadays, outside of those like old school YouTubers and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean it's hard because like I said, I've been on YouTube for so long that like I still feel like a lot of my videos are kind of pulling from some of that old stuff. But like like I would say like the Spoony one is still one of those, like even though he doesn't create things, he hasn't created anything since like 2012, 2013. He had a bit of a mental breakdown and he just stopped. But I still have like all of his videos downloaded and I'll watch them and be like, okay, like how's the pacing? What's going on?
Yeah.
In terms of like the older stuff that like, because I used to watch that all throughout high school, and like I've always kept it on in the background during school and college and all that kind of stuff. So that's still in the list. But in terms of like current creators, a really good friend of mine now. It's funny. I used to look up to him, and then now he's like, dude, we're peers now. We're like equals. It's okay. But he goes by Schwingy. It's SCHWINGY. He started a second channel where he covers mostly like first person shooters right now. He's got a couple of boomer shooters on there those videos have just popped off. But he was he's big on the Path of Exile scene, and he was just really nice and like kind of helped me out with figuring out things a lot along the way. So I take a lot of inspiration from him. We actually we collaborate a little bit on terms of like timing and pacing and like how it all kind of flows. And then Rash, A triple R ASH. I don't even know how you say his name perfectly, but I just call him Rash. I like his style is more linear style, like Snamwitches. If you've never ever heard of his name, it's about that same style where you're going through a game.
On that,
no, he wasn't on the
okay,
podcast.
never mind.
No, so Snam has about 300,000 subs. What he does is like an insane like achievement for a game, and he'll basically do it all on stream, and then you can take that stream footage and cut it down into a linear of like, here's what I did at this chapter, here's what happened in this chapter. That Frontlines Fuel of War video that I did was that style of go through it very linear. So I like that style because it gets me playing games and then recapping them.
Yeah.
And that's sort of like the whole reason why I started YouTube was like, I got to a point where I was like, I'm just not enjoying playing games. I like talking about them in Discord calls with people a lot more than playing them, honestly, sometimes. Yeah. And so I liked the idea of like playing a game and then talking about it.
Yeah. That's always
so I think, I think that's really where my inspiration is now. I mean, I don't necessarily go out and like watch content and think like, oh, I want to pick up that style or like do it that way, or other than Rash and Snam right now. But like I'm still in the phase where I'm like, I just move through things and I just try to mix it up because I don't
see like trying to develop like your own style of things. Like like that's when I've tried to like set in stone like things. Like I've started now all my videos like introduce like the audience as like welcome ladies and animals, just because I thought it was like it mixes it up from just like ladies and gentlemen. But like my main thing that I normally try to look for, especially when it comes to content and stuff like that, is creator podcasts. Like if I ever see, I haven't watched Game Theory in a long time, like maybe 2015, 2016-ish. But if I ever see Matt Pat's face on a podcast, I click on it because that guy is like smart. I mean, obviously he's got 4 successful YouTube channels that are all still successful even after he's retired from them. But it's like you go through and you listen to some of these people that have had, multi-million subscriber channels, and you can kind of derive a lot of wisdom from that kind of stuff. And that's where I like to go as far as like listening. It's like I feel like there's probably supposed to be an adage for it or whatever, but it's like listening to the wisdom of people who've already done it, so you don't really have to kind of go into it completely blind, because obviously YouTube's a big place now. It's a massive ecosystem in 2024, so there's a lot of different places for you to pull ideas and kind of thoughts like that from.
Yeah, I've always kind of chalked it down into a very simple saying, which is imitate and then iterate.
Yeah. Yeah, that's perfect.
So find what you like, imitate it, because you're not going to be able to reproduce it. So imitate it to your ability, and then iterate on that.
Yeah, it's a good way to look at it. And then I'm curious about this because I have a process, and like me and Ben have been talking in the background a lot of the times about like if we do the podcast this way, and then if I get the footage and I send it to Ben and he turns that into like shorts content or whatever else like that. And I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about the way that I come up with script edit, record, get all the footage for videos and stuff, and it's very like my desk is a rat's nest where like if you weren't me, you don't know how to find anything. Like I showed to one of my friends my desktop. I have literally everything is just folders. There's just 700 folders right on my desktop. And that's how like everything's organized, and it's this really weird like Library of Alexandria type setup where if you're not me, you're not going to know what you're looking at going into it. And I think it's very insane, but it's like the insanity that works for me. And I'm curious like what your process, because like for me most of the time is I get an idea, I script it. Most of the time it's the first draft. I never spend a whole lot of time on more than one draft for a video unless it's a chunkier video like those big 50-minute Destiny videos or the Gears 5 years later one. Like I've made small edits to it as I've been working on it over the months. And then it's kind of like recording it, getting footage for it, and then finally putting it all together in Final Cut and editing it. So I was curious what your process of like putting videos together is.
Well, I don't have a rat's nest on my desktop. I can say that. I have exactly 26 icons on my desktop, and there's actually a couple of those that I need to delete just because I upgraded to Windows 11 and there's a garbage that came with it.
Oh.
So not that way. But on one of my drives, I have a couple of my drives. I just have a folder that's called Project Media, and I keep all my project names in there. And then I have a template in that folder as well that just I copy it. I make a copy of that folder and then I rename it to the project. Inside there is a folder that says like clips, images, my thumbnail, voiceover, music. I think that's about it. And then inside of clips, even because the way I go through it is I'm playing the games and then I'm doing like review retrospective styles on on the games. So inside of the clips folder, I'll even break it down to like the full gameplay footage. My clips. So while I'm doing OBS, I will have the full recording go, and then I'll hit a button on my keyboard to do a replay buffer. So I capture the last minute. So that way, like as I go to edit, I have all
like
the clips that
out.
I think like while I'm playing it. Like I don't like to take notes while I play. I don't like to slow down like that. So I just do the real replays, and that's the first thing I watch is what did I like think was worthy of being in the video enough that I hit the replay button. I go through that and I'm like, okay, that now gives me an idea of what I need to cover in my script. And then in my folders, I then have like a folder for like trailers and docs, and like I'll get that granular so that way when I move it all into DaVinci Resolve, I like have it all in bins and I can just very quickly move through and do markers on my whole gameplay recording.
It's much more organized. Like mine, so I have like a row of folders on one side, and that's just all of my projects in timeline. I have all of my videos scripted and like planned out at least to October by this point. Like I just, it's changed a few times. Like I've changed the order and stuff like that. Like I'm working on a video for this next Friday that was supposed to come out the week that the E-Day trailer dropped. But I had just ended up like having other things come up, and I was like, well, I want to talk about this. Well, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this. I should probably get this video out just to make some variety in there or whatever. And it just got pushed back and back and back. But like the way I've always done it is like I have a list of folders that are each representative to each one of the projects. And then all of the media for that project is just like I'll title it out when I'm getting it. Like I'll call it art dash whatever if it's just an image, or I'll call it clip dash if it's like a video or whatever. Or VO dash or music dash, whatever. Like it's organized in that kind of way, but it's all just sort of together, jammed pack in that folder. And then as soon as I'm done editing the video, folder goes right to trash and I'm done with it. I never touched it again.
Ben, I can tell that this is a problem.
It's not necessarily a problem. It just means that like if I ever came to a point of trying to like ask someone else to like look at it, like say like me and Ben are working on the podcast, because I do the same thing for everything, for my stream stuff, for the podcast stuff. If I ever tried to like hand it off to Ben and be like, hey, make this work, he would have to like sift through like 700 different random stuff.
I don't think you understand how bad my like work stuff is. I think I could do it. Yeah, okay. Half of the stuff that I need for work is just in my brain. I just forget to write it down and pray that I remember it next week.
Well, yeah. There's nothing like mental notes.
I mean, I'm the same way.
Yeah.
That's how I did like, because I'm much the same way where you say like you don't want to like take notes while you're playing. I did that with like when I was playing through Gears 5 again for that, getting ready for that years later video, like I would play through the entirety of an act in the game, like just before I go to bed or whatever. Like I'll play through Act 1, I'll like think about it while I'm playing it, and then like I'll write out the script, like the part of the script that has to do with Act 1, and everything that stood out to me, I'll make sure that it goes in the script. But if there's anything like really specific that might have piqued my interest and I just totally forgot about it, it wasn't noteworthy enough for me to remember it for it to make it into the script, and then just sort of going through that piece by piece.
My favorite part about Kyle here's organization is where he stores his thumbnails.
On the desktop.
On the desktop, and then he's got his backup storage, which is just our Discord like chat. It's beautiful. Yeah.
So like all of my thumbnails are edited on a laptop that I do while I'm at work. Like on my break or whatever, I'll just edit the thumbnails, put it together, and then I send them to Ben on Discord. I'm like, hey, what do you think of this thumbnail? And I'm saying, what do you think of this thumbnail? But secretly, it's just a really easy way for me to send it to him on my laptop, and then I come on my PC and I can download it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
You see, he makes me feel important just to use me later. That's our whole thing.
I started recently, like about a month ago. I just set up the Google Drive download onto my computer, so that way every time I do my outputs for my thumbnails, it goes into that, so I can always access it on my phone. Because every time I make a thumbnail, I'm always like, well, let me go look at it on my phone first to see how it looks. Because most people, like half the audience is on phones.
Well, that's one thing I talked about on stream, where I was like looking at your thumbnail for that Gears video, where I was like, zoom way the hell out, because most people looking at this are going to see it super small and not like blown up on a desktop like how you're looking at it. So you want to like make sure it's legible. Like if there's any text on it, the text has to be like legible from however far away or whatever size.
Yeah. So I do that, and then you asked about like how I come up with the ideas and I script and stuff. One of the things I do is kind of like what you were talking about with the Gears 5 is at the end of the night, like if I'm like last night I was playing Rainbow Six Vegas for like an hour and a half, and after the night ends and it's like time to go to bed, I have a notepad and I just kind of write notes about like it's kind of like a journaling of like here's what I did, here's where I'm gonna do next, so that way I can just really quickly read like 4 or 5 sentences about what happened, and then when I go to play the game the next time, it's like immediately like I know where I'm at once I hit play. That's been really helpful for me, not just for like the scripting. I don't really put it in the script or anything, but just having that like really quick like connection into the game. It's something I really want to do with the next time I play a big RPG. Yeah. Because I always lose track of what the hell is going on in any RPG.
Yeah.
But so that's kind of what I do like as I'm playing through the games. But then in terms of like as I come up with ideas, other than just going through the game collection that's been growing and trying to remind the wife that every time I spend $6 on a game, I can turn it into a video that makes me $100 or so. Which
an investment.
It's working out for me so far, but eventually it won't. Right?
They're doing really well. I saw like the Frontlines video has like 8,000 views, and like for like a 1,000 sub channel, like that's not bad at all. That's as long as like you're doing more views than you have subscribers. That's good. That's doing good.
Yeah, like I made a video on Battle Stations Midway, which is a World War II naval sim that came out in 2007, and I honestly didn't even like. I put it together in like a weekend because I was like, I just really like this game. I remember playing it. Like I have good memories of this. I just want to make a video and just throw it out there.
Yeah.
And I don't care if anyone watches it or anything. And that's out like 45,000 now.
Yeah. It's always those, like that one I was talking about earlier, the Diesel Punk video. I literally was just like, I have this idea. I'll write it down. It was like a 2-page Google Doc script. And then I made it in like 2 days and I just shit it out. And I was like, this is kind of just like a joke, whatever, upload. I put it out there and it 100,000 views. I put it up. Yeah. This last April, me and my fiance took a trip out to California to go visit my family. We took a week off. We went out there, and then we left for the road trip like that Friday. And all my videos go up at midnight on Fridays. So it went up, and then we left here at like 2 a.m. on Friday. And then by the time we had landed in California at like midnight at the end of the day, it was already at like 15,000 something views, and I was like, oh my, what the hell, I like barely even tried. And then this is the video that gets like, and it's like you got to settle your expectations, because there's videos like that God of War one I talked about before, or even like other Gears of War ones that I had put like way more effort into. Like I made this video it was kind of one of the videos I wanted to make forever when I first got my PC, like back when I was 17 years old. It was called like Why I Love Gears of War, and it was kind of, that's exactly what the title says. That's like all the different things that brought me into the series and why I enjoyed it when I was growing up and stuff like that. And that one did like 1,000 views, and it was like, it's not bad, but you know, it's whatever. And then this video that I made in like 2 days that I kind of just shit out, massive success.
Yeah.
But
for sure, that
it's
was
kind of
crazy.
just, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, my End War video, right? It had 300 views after like the first couple of days, and then 30,000 by the end of the next 3
Yeah.
days. It was insane. And then I dove into like doing some End War stuff because that community was coming back together. So we had a Discord that went from 80 people to now I think it's like 350, and it's just trying to revive the game, and we're trying to like dig into the servers and try to actually like add new servers and get it back running. I don't really play it that much, but I then pivoted to doing that Gears of War video.
Yeah.
And that Gears of War video was one that like I talked about for like a month with my brother and even like my mom about like memories from that time to like try to get pieces it all together.
Yeah.
So I put like a lot of energy and effort and like heart into that video, and it still hasn't, I don't even think it's broke 1,000 yet.
Yeah.
So that one is that really like sucked.
Yeah.
Kind of took
It's
me
always
out
like
of
the
it
ones
for a
that you
little
like
bit.
really like want to do well or like expect to do well, and then it's like, oh.
Yeah. And then so I made the Battle Stations video next, and it's going crazy and gangbusters. And so it's like, that's the thing. You just got to keep going. Like, you got to find the things you enjoy and just keep going.
Yeah.
Now, thankfully, I'm at a point where I've taken the time. I have a Google Doc that is just bullet points of all my ideas. And
Yeah.
that list is so long that there's no way I could ever accomplish it all, like in my mind at least.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the best place to be in, because I can always just go to that list and be like, oh, what do I want to do next? All right, let's just
Yeah.
have fun doing that.
And then like, speaking of, this might, never mind. I was about to say something else. Doesn't matter. When does that, do you know when that Gears of War 2 video is going to come out?
I just did the recording, the voiceover over the weekend, so it's gonna be a while.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Damn.
No, usually I try to crank out. Usually, like once I start editing, I can get a video done in about, let's just say like about a week at this point.
Yeah.
I have a business trip coming up next week, and then I have a little one whose sleep schedule is up and down. So
Oh, yeah.
the Gears,
Yep, I
my
felt
last Gears
that.
video was it only took me like 4 days to edit it, even though it was like probably 18 hours of editing. I just cranked it out like 3-hour chunks every night.
Yeah.
Can't do that anymore because who knows when she's gonna wake up. So I got to make sure I
Exactly.
sleep.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's like why we
so,
always record
yeah,
super
it'll be
late at
out.
night, because we both have,
It's
you know, very, very small children to look after, and you got to wait for them to finally crash out before we can actually sit down and do anything. That's why all the streams are super late at night too.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Speaking-
So hopefully out within hopefully out next weekend. It's not this coming weekend, but the weekend after.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to do a lot of the rough cut while I'm traveling next week. Or if I just get into the groove, because this is a new style for me. It's more of a linear style of editing, because I'm actually going to go through the whole campaign this time. And last time I just really I just gave it like a paragraph about like,
Yeah.
here's the highlights of what happened in Gears, because you guys have heard the story plenty of times.
yeah.
But this one I'm going to go like more of a linear of what happens and do a lot more cutaways and stuff.
It was really unique to me because there's so many videos, like even the years later videos I did on Gears 2 and 3 was that like, it's just kind of like focusing on like the campaign and the story, which like a lot of people think back to those when they like think about Gears and stuff. But like your video was like so focused on multiplayer, and not just multiplayer, but like the feeling of multiplayer, like it helps you to like get in the mindset of somebody who was playing it back in 2006, 2007, whatever. And like, really kind of relive what it was like, because I didn't play any Gears of War multiplayer until Gears of War 4, because like when Gears 3 was the first Gears game I remember coming out, and like I would just play beast mode, or I would play like I would do 1v1s with a buddy of mine, and that's the closest I got to multiplayer. Or I'd like play against bots or whatever, because I was like scared of playing online or whatever the hell, because Gears 3 came out and I was 9 years old. So it was a bit of a shallow water for me. So like I don't have any memories as far as like Gears of War multiplayer, especially way back for like the first one.
I think you'll like the second one then, because I actually I didn't play it a ton. I definitely played it like a lot,
Yeah.
but not enough that I have very like good memories of the second one. Not like I did for the first one at least. But so I actually reached out to some experts that have like
Yeah.
16,000 matches in execution and has like signed items that Lee Perry, the gameplay designer,
Yeah.
actually sent them.
That's awesome.
So I got them to help me with like making sure I got all my T's crossed and my I's dotted.
Yeah. That's like I played a lot of Gears 2 like in that same vein, like offline. Like I remember a lot of the maps, and like I remember, oddly enough, like I remember the horde mode the best because for a long time I wasn't allowed to play Gears of War while my mom was home. Like it was a game that me and my dad played like secretly while my mom was going to school because I was, in the second grade, and that's probably not a game that a second grader should be playing. But he wanted, because he played Gears of War 1 with a buddy of his, and then obviously, they're adulting, they can't like get together for like a couch co-op game all the time. So he bought an Xbox 360 and Gears of War 2 to like continue playing the games, and he just made me play as Dom so he could have a co-op. And like that's what got me into the games. And I remember I have this very specific memory of watching him and an uncle of mine playing Gears of War 2 Horde mode on the Jacinto map, and they were just like collecting the boom shields to put them down as cover, and they were just holding out on one of the towers as they like were slowly running out of ammo. And I remember specifically one of the two of them going, "Holy shit, we got to use the pistols. I don't know how to use this thing," because they had like never used the snub pistols before until they were forced to because they ran out of ammo. And they're on like wave 40 or some shit, and they're fighting like all these different maulers and boomers and really tough enemies, and they're just sitting there with the snubs at the top of the stairs trying to like desperately take it out. And that's like the most vivid memory of Gears of War 2 that I have.
I think my most vivid memory of it is from the beta, actually, for Gears 2 multiplayer, which came out, I think they launched it like 2 or 3 weeks before. And I'm pretty sure it was like a Taco Bell or Mountain Dew like style of thing you had to buy and like get into it. But there was I want to say it's like a river was the name of the map, or crossing. It's one of the snow maps that's in Land.
Oh, Avalanche.
Not Avalanche, but the other
No?
one.
Oh, never mind then.
It's the other one.
The Avalanche is the only one I remember. River is in Land Down, I think, with the bridge right in the middle.
Yeah,
And the two towers. Yeah.
Yeah, that one. Or Crossing. I think it's called Crossing. It might be called Crossing.
There might be if it's a different map. Yeah.
Yeah, I just remember that. I remember playing as like Dizzy in the in that beta, and then the Mortar was in that beta, and like I just have this like vivid memory of playing it with my brother. I don't like remember anything about how it went, but I just remember there's like a scene of that map and walking across it for like the first time and seeing that bridge and where the enemies spawn and how they all run out and like keeping tabs on who's where, and
it's so cool. Plus,
what
like
a throwback.
The Mortar specifically, as far as all the guns in Gears of War, there's some like great sound design, especially in like Gears of War 2, Gears of War 3 for all the the different guns. The Mortar to this day is probably my favorite sounding weapon in like any video game. Just like the click 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 click, and then like the fire, the whistle, and then like the explosive.
Whistle,
It's so good. I made this series called like Guns and Gears or whatever, where I went through and I did a breakdown of like all the different like weapons and stuff you can pick up. And in the last one, it's all about all the different heavy weapons, and like the Mortar, going through and like getting footage of that and listening to that, I was like, oh my god, this is the best. This is the best gun in the entire series, just for like that sound design alone. It's so good.
The way the camera shakes, like right as right as it explodes to do the waves of shrapnel, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
that camera shake every time, like it's
so good. It's such a fun weapon too. Like it's like something you don't really see in a lot of video games. It's like Gears of War, and a lot of those older games I feel had a lot more creativity as far as like trying new stuff. Like I was looking at, I never played it, but I was doing research on like different chainsaw type stuff in video games, and I saw the Ripper from Dead Space. How it's like this. I don't know if you played Dead Space.
Mm-hmm.
How it's like it's got like the saw blade that like shoots out, and you can hold it in front of you, and then you could fire it, and it's like there's all these like cool ideas. And then one specifically, there was another Epic Games project, Bulletstorm. Like every single gun in that game is unique and like plays differently, and it's just really cool to like play around with and mess around with.
Yeah, I actually have Bulletstorm on my short list of games coming up.
It's a great.
It was on my poll, and it was very narrowly beaten out by Frontlines, which I'm so glad that I have now played it. But man, I was so mad when I was playing it. I was like, I freaking am so upset that I put out a poll and everyone picked this game.
Yeah, I could tell that in your like review. Like you were talking about like it's Battlefield 3 before Battlefield 3 was a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that'll be an interesting one to see because I feel like part of it is the fact that like a lot of my peers were also teenagers in 2016, so like we had not a lot of experience for like the 360 era, but like for the longest time growing up, I thought Gears of War and Bulletstorm as well, to a much less extent, was like a very niche title, that it was like this like underground type, almost like indie game that like nobody had ever heard about, because obviously nobody in my age group had ever heard about it. Maybe like one or two people, or people I introduced it to. And then as I was growing up, I was like, you know, becoming aware of the world around me, and like finding out that like, oh no, Gears of War is like probably the title that put the 360 on the map, at least to begin with, right? Like it's such a massive thing that like now I could recognize today, but like when I was 15 or whatever in high school, and none of the other high schoolers around me knew what Gears of War was, I was like, damn, maybe this is like my my own little thing.
When did Gears 4 come out?
That was 2016.
16?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I still haven't played 4 or 5. I've been playing through. I was playing through a little bit of Judgment, helping a friend of mine get some footage, but I'm going to revisit that one on my own.
Is a wacky one. Me and Ben,
That is Gears Judgment is the only Gears game I've ever played, and that was last year. Yeah. So my whole opinion from Gears just comes from Judgment.
The sad part. The sad part about it is you are not the only person who has that experience.
Yeah. My argument was, let's play through the games in like chronological order or whatever, right? Like,
I think that's why I think Judgment is what killed it for me, to be honest with you. Right? Like a part of me does want to go through, and because I played a bit of the Gears 5 multiplayer, and a part of me does want to go through Gears 1 and all of them and kind of experience it. Not like, of course, how you guys have, but just experience the games. But every single time I boot it up, I have flashbacks to Judgment. Yeah. I'm like, please, don't put me through that again. Yeah. Like,
none of them are nearly as bad as Judgment is. And it's like,
Judgment is so much worse than I thought it was. I'd heard it was pretty bad. I guess I had a misconception about what the story was. Yeah. I'd always assumed it was a lot more of the COG versus UIR fight, and then the Locusts kind of emerge at the end of the story. Was what I'd always had in my head. Just from what I'd heard, probably because of what I heard about the multiplayer, where it's COG versus COG, really.
It's like
so I'd
all
always
human.
built up in my head. It's like all human, right? And so just playing through it, I'm like, good God, they're doing the like the Oceans plotline thing where they're explaining what's happening in the plot. They're giving the flashbacks. Yeah. Actually, it reminded me. I brought it up with my friend. There was a King Arthur movie that came out in like 2015, 16, 17. It stars the guy from Sons of Anarchy.
I know what you're talking
of that
about.
Piece of shit movie.
Yeah, no, yep. You are so right. You are so correct. I've never heard a more factual statement than that right there. Holy shit.
If you haven't seen that movie, basically the entire movie it's 3 set pieces of them sitting in different rooms and then explaining what happens. And then they go do what happens again. Yeah. So like they explain the plot and the plan, then they go do the plan. So it happens twice.
It is so bad. Like it's almost good. Like that's how bad it is in my eyes. Like it's something that I'll sit down and watch just because it's horrible. Yeah,
I think. But for me, I got off Judgment,
track, but
Judgment's a weird one because like I don't think it's awful. I think it's just like it's the worst It's like the worst one at being a Gears of War game. Like it is so far removed from the plot, but like if I was looking at it on its own, like it wasn't a Gears of War title, I think it wouldn't be as offensive as it is, you know? But like the fact that it has like this, especially coming off the heels of like Gears of War 3, like it's a very jarring experience.
I think my issue as like a newcomer to it, where my only kind of experience with Gears has kind of been in the community and stuff. Yeah, I think it just sets like a bad, like it sets the stage in the wrong way for what the rest of the games are going to be like. You know what I mean? And I think I've played a bit of Gears 3 with you, and it just, I know they're different experiences, but like that, the experience of Judgment still taints. You know what I mean? Right? Yeah. Like, and I think starting with that is like the worst option because it kind of taints the experience of the rest of the ones personally. But
I gotta say, Judgment is it's just a bad game on its surface. I think even if you remove the Gears, the comparison to the other Gears, and you just let it be its own game, I think it's still just a bad game.
Yep.
The story is kind of, it meanders.
Yeah.
And then I will say the villain's pretty good though, Karn. I did like, is Karn right? That's his name.
Yeah, Karn. Karn is really cool.
Yeah. I like Karn. I like the kind of over the top nature of like launching this missile to get rid of Karn.
Use a nuclear bomb for one dude.
Yeah. I like that. I did like Karn. But just the chapter style of it and the pacing of it.
That's
where
fair,
you're going through these like action set piece into a cutscene where you kick open a door and then you do it again. Into another cutscene where you kick open a door.
Yeah.
And you get like story in the voiceover while you're walking through, or like even while you're fighting sometimes, which is really annoying to me. Just from a storytelling perspective and even like a gameplay perspective, I think that it's just a bad game.
I agree fully.
And if you compare it to not just Gears, but you compare it to other games that came out at the same time, it just doesn't hold a candle.
Yeah. It's just, you know what it is? It's a hard to play game. Yeah, it was hard to play then. With everything, I think everything you said with the story and the gameplay, like comparative to stuff that came out around that time, and just in a general, even compared to games that came out like before it, it's just hard to play. Yeah, it's hard to sit down and enjoy. It's hard to like actually care about it. Like the only reason I really showed up was just to make fun of the game and to like crack jokes, because I just could not care about it at all. Right? I still didn't even know what the story was about, to be honest with you. Like I still didn't understand what was going on. There was just an angry man with a mustache getting mad at people. It's as much as I like remember.
I mean, that's pretty much what the story was.
Yeah, that's pretty much the story. I mean,
see now with this convo, I feel like challenged. Like I want to make a years later video on Judgment and try and defend why I like it. Although I know that's probably a really hard task.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I'd love to see it too. I really would.
Because I think it has qualities and stuff. It may be just like the execution of it is badly, and maybe I'm looking on it too fondly, because I feel like a lot of Judgment has been like put down. I think it is definitely the weakest of like the Gears series. Like I think Gears Pop was probably better than Judgment.
Oh no, it was. I remember skipping my high school English class to play Gears Pop in the bathroom on my laptop.
Yeah, but to me, it's like Star Wars. It's like if you were there for Star Wars, like the original trilogy and everything, like it's this mind-blowing thing, and then like the prequels come out, and if you're like already a Star Wars fan, you're like, Star Wars is amazing, you got to watch the prequels, and then like you watch Phantom Menace, and you're like, and that's your first Star Wars movie, and you're like, what was that? Like that was completely, like it's got its high moments, it's got like the high, like the memes or whatever you can make out of it, but for the most part, it is way weaker than like that original trilogy.
Yeah. I don't know. I just like because it came out in 2013, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
It came out March of 2013.
I'm sitting here thinking about games that came around the same time and looking at some, and I just think like comparatively, like it, like you said, I don't think it holds a candle. Yeah. I don't think it stands up. It's one of those games that I will only ever remember because it was one of those experiences. Yeah.
It also
I
does
will-
feel like
yeah.
a weird like Gears of War 3 add-on that like kind of like became its own thing. And I think that makes it feels weird because
Yeah.
it is very obviously they just rip like a lot of the assets are just ripped 1-to-1 for Gears 3. Like that's one thing that does irk me with the game is that like it has a lot of stuff that like in the greater Gears of War universe canon stuff like that is like wrong, like how they have the chainsaw lancer, they have like Cantus and Therons and stuff or whatever showing up, and it's like these aren't supposed to be in the story, but they very obviously just ripped it right from Gears 3 because they needed to have enemy variety and stuff like that.
And I think that was the weird part because, like, so obviously I don't know a lot about Gears. In order to have some of these conversations, I try to like watch as many videos as I can and learn as much as I possibly can from different sources. Sometimes it's Kyle over here, and sometimes it's other people. And Judgment just kind of made me question a lot of the story stuff that I thought that I knew, and it threw whatever I thought I could talk about out the window. And I feel like I'm back at square one, going, I don't know what's happening anymore. Like you said with enemies and stuff, and I don't know. It was just confused me a whole bunch more than I think it was worth.
It probably
I
will
don't
be
know
because
if it's
they're
ever explained, but in the first Gears, the first time you see a Theron, you hear the whispering, and Dom, you hear them like whispering something like hostiles. I think is the first line you ever hear from the Theron, and Dom and Marcus are like, "What was that?" And Baird is like, "Oh, that was a Theron." Like Baird's the only one of those of that group that knows. And so it's like I think they were trying to tie that into Judgment of like, this is why Baird would know what these are.
Oh.
But then it's also like Marcus and Dom are in, like they put them in Judgment as well. Like Marcus is in Halvo Bay, like he talks to Baird over the walkie or whatever, and it's like, well, this isn't. I had this exact same argument with somebody on Reddit today, where somebody was trying to like argue that like Baird was like a. I'm gonna get like really nerdy in Gears of War here for a second, but somebody tried to argue with me that like Baird was like a high-ranking lieutenant or whatever, so obviously he would have gone up against like Locust Special Forces.
I saw this.
And I was staring at it and I was like, Marcus was a corporal. Like he was a higher rank than Baird was. Dom was a commando. He was also a higher rank than Baird was. So like the special forces argument doesn't make any sense. Like it's very clearly that what has happened, and it's probably going to happen in E-Day as well, is that in 2005 when they were making Gears of War 1, they had these enemies show up and Marcus has been in prison for 10 years or 4 years. So it's like these things are being introduced to the player, and because Marcus has been out of the fight for a while, they're being introduced to him, so that's how they can introduce it to the player. Because they do the same thing with Cantus in Gears of War 2. The first time you see Cantus in the Hollow in Gears 2, I think Benjamin is like, what is that? And Marcus goes, down here, something else to shoot. Like, he doesn't know what a Cantus is at that point. But obviously, they're in Judgment, they're in Rom Shadow, they will probably be in E-Day, and like, it's just, they didn't really have the story planned out by then, so they have to, like, retcon them into these prequels and stuff so that you're not just fighting drones the entire time. Because they do that with all the enemy. Like, the Berserker is introduced to Marcus in Gears of War 1 as well.
Yeah. I noticed that I was going through all my footage for Gears 2, and I realized that the Berserker is not in Gears 2, just at all.
Yeah, that one. They're also missing in 3, technically. Like, there's the Lambit Zerker, and there's a Berserker in Rom Shadow, but they don't show up in Gears 3.
I haven't played Rom Shadow yet, so I'm excited to... When I replay 3, I'm going to do Rom Shadow.
It's a great DLC. Like, the Rom sections are fun. And
I just, over the weekend, picked up an Xbox One X off OfferUp for... Got it for $100. So that's a steal right there.
That's actually not bad.
That is a steal.
Yeah, so just for the backwards compatibility stuff, because I mean,
I don't know
you get
if
FPS boost with the Series X, but
okay, see, it's not boosted up to 60.
It's not. It's boosted to 60, but you don't get the I think Series X can boost it to 120 or whatever it might be.
I know my Series S does 60 frames, but it also pumps it up to, like, it scales up the resolution to 1080 as well, which is jarring sometimes because it does it to the gameplay, but like for the pre-rendered cutscenes, they're still rendered out in like in 2011 graphics. So it's like the gameplay looks crisp, it looks perfect, it looks awesome, and then it goes to the cutscene of Dom at the gas station, and it's like it looks like it came out of 2011.
Traveling through time.
I think you noticed it when I did. You're like the only person who have called me out for it, and I did it on purpose. So thank you. was in my Gears 1 video. Like I show everyone else from the Ultimate Edition and then Anya from the from the Gears 1 edition.
Yeah.
Because she just looks so goofy in the first one. I just thought it was
She
hilarious.
looks like what's her name from the Grinch? Sally Lou or whatever.
Sally Lou.
Yeah.
Cindy Lou Who.
Cindy Lou. Yeah, she looks like a Who, you know? Like she's got like that really like pointy nose. Like she looks like an elf person. But that's we can go into that. So like what do you think of like Gears of War creators as I don't know like how much of like the Gears of War kind of ecosystem you're into, because I know like you played all the games before, you did like the Gears 1 and Gears 2 retrospectives, but I don't know how much of like the ecosystem of different like creators and stuff you've like gotten your hands onto.
I usually I play a game and I just like dive into as much as I can on YouTube to learn more about it. I usually try to wait till after I finish the game. Truthfully, like with the gear stuff, I haven't been diving into too much about it. I watched your videos to like sort of get a feel for like what is being talked about. I think most of the Gears videos I have watched that are retrospectives or years laters or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's more of just like a research sense. I'm not necessarily like really watching it as entertainment. It's more just like what are people talking about? What is like how are they presenting the information? Not because I like, want to take it, but like just inspiration and just knowing like kind of what is working, what I feel works and what I feel doesn't work.
Yeah.
So like I just don't dive that much into the ecosystem. I'm not a big lore head with like most games or most franchises. So a lot of the lore stuff, like I'll watch like a couple of videos here and there. I think I watched your E-Day. You had one on ROM.
Yeah.
I watched that one because you called me out that weekend before because I called him Ram in my video. And you're like, oh, you should watch
I did it
ROM.
too. I remember I was looking back on one of the videos I recorded and I called it like a Brumac or something. And that was like another one of the things I called you on. And then I re-listened to like one of my videos and I said Brumac. And I was like, what the fuck? How did I do it too? Like I caught it.
In the first Gears, they say both.
Did you say both?
They say both. I think the first time that you hear it is Brumac, and then they say Brumac later on.
Okay.
So it's probably just like one of those Mandela effects.
Well, it's probably like I would assume it's probably something they changed, like how Cole used to be called Gus because they were going to call him by like Augustus, but now it's just all Cole.
Yeah. Rom, they'd never say his name until you're walking through the Locust Hollows in 2.
Yeah.
And they say it in just a voiceover while you're walking, just like a downtime.
Yeah, because they're talking about like that's right after they see Scourge, and they're like he makes Rom look like a goddamn pushover.
Yeah, exactly. So I called him Ram because that's just been, burned into my head for the last 17 years, right? Because we never heard his name, and I'm not a lore head, so I never like watched the videos to hear anything about the lore and hear about Rom.
Yeah.
So, I corrected it from my Gears 2 retrospective when I say Rom's name because you have pointed that out for me now.
Dude, I'm excited for that one. We're watching that one on stream for sure. But like when it comes to like Gears of War lore, like I do obviously like all the mini series and like Gears of War lore and stuff like that. Like I get really into it. Like I own most of the books and all of the comics and stuff like that. And I do that with a lot of different things like Destiny and Warhammer and apparently Ben 10 now. But like it's one of the one of the things that stops me from watching like Gears of War content, because like if I ever listen to like I get like that really weird like actually nerd brain whenever I listen to people talk about Gears of War. Like it came up a few times and I was listening to your podcast The Rack, and there's this other podcast I listen to called The Snark Tank, and like they talk about Gears of War all the time, just like reminiscing on it from like the like Gears of War 2 and 3, like from when they played it on the 360, and they like make jokes about it or whatever, or they'll like bring up questions where they'll like be asking questions about the game that like to me as somebody who has been probably a little bit too involved with Gears of War since I was a freshman in high school, that like I hear it and I just like my brain like starts to hurt where I'm like, come on, it's right there, like the answer's right there. come on, get it right. And I just get like annoyed by it, like for no reason whatsoever. But it's like the, and I think like that same exact thing, like when that, we watched like your video on stream where it was like, Rom, come on, Rom. Like,
Yeah.
it's always like the smallest little things that like get caught up in my brain.
Yeah, like I said, it's just one of those things where like it's been locked into my brain as RAM for like 17 years, and I didn't watch enough. I didn't do enough research into it, and part of me is like I'm glad I didn't do that much research into really what everyone else is talking about, other than really understanding like, okay, your video, and a lot of other videos are talking about the story, and like here are the story beats that they're covering and that sort of thing. But I knew going into my video when I was like coming up with the idea and bullet pointing out the idea was I don't want to cover the story that much. I really want to cover, like you said. You said it really made you feel that feeling of playing the multiplayer, and thank you, man.
It puts
that's
you
what I
like
was going
in
for.
the shoes of somebody. Like it even like took me back because obviously it's a bit beyond my time of like those really old CRT like TVs and stuff. We had a big Mitsubishi like a gigantic box TV, stuff like that. We used to have smaller ones, but one of them fell off a shelf and it broke my brother's nose, so we got rid of that one pretty quickly. But we had like the big Mitsubishi ones, and I remember that once we had it for so long until it got cockroaches inside of it, and then we immediately got rid of it. But then it's it's been like everything's been like flat screens since then, and it's like I remember like seeing that you had like that photo of one or whatever in there, and I was like, man, that kind of like they like especially when they could only go up to like 720, and you had like the red, yellow, and white. Like the AV cords. Yeah.
The good old days.
Yeah. I had like I think it was an Emerson, like maybe like an 18 or maybe it was like a 24-inch, but it was 4x3 TV with the composite cables in until maybe like 2012. When I finally I went and helped a buddy and his dad take down like this old what do you call it, swing set that was like rotting at their house, and he had just bought a new TV and was like, do you want this TV? And I got a 47-inch flat screen, and so I was like, that was awesome. But like, I mean, I played all those games on my I had a giant Mitsubishi too in our living room, but the giant Mitsubishi in the living room on the big glass TV stand, which I am surprised that thing even held the weight, but tempered glass is what it is. Sometimes it holds it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what Gears of War was to me. It was like, I couldn't talk about Gears without talking about like the feeling of playing it. Like I remember, like that came out, it was still the blades on Xbox 360. Like you still had the blades design for tabbing through everything.
Yeah.
You played it. You had to use voice chat. It was the only way to like talk with a microphone to people. It wasn't until, and I bring this up in the Gears 2 video, and I give some context around it. But Gears 2 came out November 7th, 2008.
Yeah.
And late in November, I think I accidentally hit mute. The 20th or so of November. Didn't realize my space bar is a mute button on Discord. I've never used it. In November of 2008 is when the new Xbox experience, is what it was called, was released. And that's when they announced avatars. And that's when they introduced the voice chat, the party chat. So you could actually talk to your friends if they were in other games and like, we take it for granted now, but it was 2008 when we finally got that. Yeah. And we could like actually do that. And so in the video I talk about it, like, because the reason it's relevant to Gears 2 is in Gears of War 2's multiplayer, there is a new feature that's called the battle cam, where once you're dead, you can actually whip around all these cinematic angles on the map, and you can see what's going on. You don't just have to spectate over the shoulder of the people who are alive. So the game came out with that feature, and you can also free cam, a ghost camera, I think is what they called it. So the game came out with those features, and then like 3 weeks later, here's this new party chat ability. So you could just be in a party chat with your friends, telling them where all the enemies are and where they're going to come from and what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to think about like that time period, because that stuff didn't exist when they were developing it. Like it wasn't on their mind of like, oh, people can just spectate and see what's happening and just relay communications. So like ranked games, we're now being degraded because people could just help each other out.
It is curious because that is something they kept in Gears of War 3 as well. Gears of War 3 still has all the ghost cam and everything as well.
So
I'm surprised they kept it.
Yeah.
I have a sort of related question. Because I was thinking about this. Because I never played on the 360. Did you guys have like adapters for like headphones and stuff on the controllers?
Yeah.
No, it's actually...
Mine did. It had like a little
Sorry,
plug-in and
continue.
you plug the headphone into that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
I played on.
you're right.
Sorry,
Adapters.
continue. Or whatever they were called. Because I played on the PS3, right? Yeah. And I remember like the only way to really talk to because we played a lot of like Destiny later on, but a lot of shit together.
Yeah.
And we'd all have to like call each other on something else. Oh, okay. Yeah, because ours was if I had the camera, I'd show you just nothing.
Yeah, I had a PS3 as well, so I know the pain.
And the only way to play with somebody is you had to call, I had to call my friend on, a landline or something. Well, my mom yelled at me. She needed to call my grandma, but we're in the middle of playing Little Big Planet or something. It was... Yeah, because I don't... The only time I think I ever played on a 360, was the Kinect on the 360? Was that a thing?
At the end, yeah.
So I think the only time I really remember was playing Fruit Ninja on the Kinect. Yeah, at my friend's grandma's house. But yeah, I played a lot of God of War and Little Big Planet, Ratchet and Clank, Destiny, like I said towards the end. So it's why going back and playing Gears now is weird. Because I mean, Kyle here and even and you two have this wild nostalgia for it. And I'm I was playing as funny bag people when I was a small boy, jumping around building things or playing as a man murdering gods. Right? So it's right. I don't know, it's weird. It's weird to listen. Not weird, but it's just interesting.
I like talking with you about this kind of stuff though, because I could talk about Xbox 360 and all the nostalgia, but I also had a PS3 and I was PS2. I had Xbox. I had I had all of the consoles. I even had a GameCube.
Yeah.
I just didn't have a Wii.
Fair enough.
I remember when when we had a Nintendo 64 and we finally got a PlayStation 2, and I just it was just the stupidest, silliest story. I can't believe I'm remembering this now. But it was Valentine's Day was coming up, and it was second grade or third grade or something like that. And we had to write. When you're going to school and you're writing all your cards for everyone, and even all the boys too. You're writing all your cards. And I remember writing it to my best friend that was in that class. Oh, we got a PS2, and I was gonna try to keep the secret from him. And then it was a week later. And I just couldn't do it. My brother was like, "I'll give you $5 if you can keep that secret." I didn't get it. So I had all those stuff. So when it comes to the PS3, I've been looking at PS3s too to get those and just play some games on there. Haze. Haze is one that I'm super nostalgic for. I wish I could get Starhawk to work, but Warhawk, I think is the one that still works.
It's so weird going back and playing them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And not a bad kind of weird. And I think it's because I find they're just different types of games. You know what I mean? That I'm used to. Little Big Planet is one that I point to a lot. I don't think I've ever played a game that feels like Little Big Planet, that isn't Little Big Planet. Yeah. It's a totally different experience, and it's just wild going back and playing it. You know what I mean? And I just
Have you played the Sly Cooper games?
Maybe a long time ago. Not recently. I gotta check my catalog.
If you ever want just a good feeling,
yeah,
it's nostalgic for me. So I admit there's nostalgia in this, but those games are just colorful and they're stealth platformers.
Oh,
and they're just a good feeling. It's the Sly Cooper trilogy.
I'll have to play those. Those sound like so much fun. What the heck?
I played them again. I played the first one again a couple of years ago after there was a passing in the family, and it was just the perfect time to play it because it was just this fun, colorful. I don't have to really think, and because game's made for 10-year-olds, honestly, 10, 12-year-olds to be able to play. But it's full of all these jokes that I get now.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's just a blast. So.
Oh, for sure. I'm trying to think of some other. You know what one I think was the craziest that was trying to talk about as a kid with people, and I think that was God of War. Yeah. because I'm over here as a very young child, like trying to talk to my friends about like God of War, and they're like, "What?" Because they're all at home with like a Wii playing Skylanders,
Oh yeah.
and I'm over here just like absolutely slaughtering people. I don't know. I think it's just everything with like the PlayStation Start screen to the UI for me is just an incredibly nostalgic thing.
Well, see,
Right?
God of War.
Yeah.
God of War is one of those ones. I never had a PlayStation until PS5, like a
Yeah.
year or 2 years ago now. But like, that's one of those games that, like, especially because it had the same acronym, like GOW, that like it made me really think that Gears of War was this like underground thing. Because I had this buddy I would play on the 360 with all the time, and I remember at one point I had seen like Gears of War in like you could see like the games like your friends have played or whatever, like the achievement list and stuff.
Yeah.
I had seen Gears of War on there because we'd always played Call of Duty or whatever. And I like sent him a message, GOW question mark, because I was trying to ask him if he wanted to like play Gears, and he sent me back a reply saying, "Sorry, I don't have PlayStation," because he just assumed I was talking about God of War. I was like, "No, what? We're on Xbox. I'm talking about Gears of War." And it was like one of those things. But I don't have a lot of memory for the PlayStation because I only ever played it at like friends. I remember playing Jack and Dexter on a PS2 at a friend's house. And that's like the only PlayStation game I remember. I remember playing the fuck out of that. He was really mad because he wanted to play Battlefront, but I like was really into Jack and Dexter, and I was like, damn, I never got a chance to play it.
I think my game.
Have...
Sorry, continue. My bad.
Ooh, that you just reminded me. I still have my DVD copy of Revenge of the Sith, which includes a disc 2 that has the Battlefront 2 demo.
Oh my god. Oh, Jesus.
I gotta pop that into my Xbox. It works on the 360, I think.
It's pretty nice.
This is gonna sound super weird, but I think like because I know you guys like super nostalgic for all these games, especially Gears. Unironically, I think my nostalgia game is Destiny. Is D1. Yeah. And I think because I started playing that when the game first came out. Yeah. And it's an awful game. Don't play it. Wouldn't recommend it. It's horrible. D2's horrible. Yeah. But I remember like
played either of them. So.
Okay, good. I mean, I'd recommend D1 definitely, but D2 is just something else. You want to talk about microtransactions? Just look at that. It sucked all my money away from me. Bad. I swear. It's like I've lost half of everything to it. I think if there's something that I could go back and I think about it and I look at it that, like, I didn't even know how to describe it. I think it was like how colorful everything was and how all the attacks, like how all the damage and the weapons and everything. And I think it's for a lot of people when I bring up D1, I think they find it like really crazy. Or the fact that like, cause there's the 6-player missions. So we'd all have like 3 friends over at one person's house, 3 friends over at the other person's house. And you know how you could like listen in on phone calls with the landlines? So we'd all sit in different rooms and sit on the same fucking phone call with each of the landlines and try to talk to each other, and you could hear the echoes from everybody across the house trying to fucking communicate. Like, it was... I think I only have a lot of nostalgia for games like Little Big Planet and Destiny, not necessarily because of the games, but the people that I was playing with and the multiplayer experience. Right? Yeah. And I think that is especially a big thing with the fact that it was so difficult to connect a headset to the PS3. Right? Like, you had to go out of your way. You had to have people over for LAN parties. Or, like I said, you just use whatever phone you had available, and your grandparents or your mother or whatever would sit there and complain because you've been on the phone for 2 hours. You're just trying to game after school, right? And I think that's why I'll always have a soft spot for any sort of PlayStation game like that, and just the PlayStation experience, personally. Yeah.
I think my brother and I had a wired PlayStation headset. The USB.
Oh, yeah, because you could get, USB. Couldn't you get, if I remember correctly, now that you got me thinking about it, you could get, like, custom controllers with headset, like, jacks? It was a pain to get and a pain to find.
They were expensive, too. I think they were, like, $100 compared to, you know, then controllers were, like, 30 or 40. They weren't, like, now where you pay $70 for a freaking Series X controller, which, honestly, I'm actually pretty happy with the Series X controller I bought, so.
I am, too.
I tore it apart. I took it apart to do some fixes on one of the rumble motors. The wire fell off, and I was like, "Oh, this is actually like really well built."
Yeah, because
the wire fell off, but like that's a normal soldering issue. Like,
because we took apart one just out of curiosity, just to see how it worked and see how they've updated everything and changed things. and me and my friends were quite impressed, like that how well built it is, and and then we decided to see how many hits on the wall it could take. So $70 well spent. Just sat there and tossed it at a concrete wall.
So, okay, so I have questions for you guys then, since you're
already
of the younger generation. I mean, a full generation difference at this point, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Would you graduate high school like 2010-ish?
12.
12? Okay.
Well, don't make the man feel old now. I was thinking
I was just, I was in fourth grade in 2012.
Oh my God, I would have been in third grade. Holy shit.
Something like that.
Then I would have been in first. God, I was a baby back then.
Yeah.
I was still probably shitting my pants at recess. Jesus.
Anyways, go ahead.
So you guys grew up with the Xbox One generation, obviously, and Series X and PS4 and PS5. So how do you guys feel about just kind of the state of Xbox through the Xbox One and Series generations? Because as I look at it from my having the history that I have with the 360 and the original Xbox, and then I skipped the Xbox One simply because the marketing coming as it was coming out was like, why would I want to buy this? If any of you are watching and unfamiliar, when they were releasing the Xbox One, they said you had to have Kinect, you had to have it on all the time, you had to always be listening, you had to always have an internet connection. If you wanted to buy a used game, you had to pay a fee in order to play that used game. Not just play it online. You had to pay a fee to play it. And then I think there was one other, but really those four.
Hook it up to a cable box.
Hook it up to a cable box. That was the fifth one for the DVR. I mean, they still have it on the One X, but...
We got an Xbox One right away because all of those things you just listed off, somehow, in some strange universe, were all the perfect selling points for my dad. So we went to Costco and picked up an Xbox One that Christmas. That was our big Christmas gift. Because for some reason, the whole idea of the Kinect, of him being able to use the Xbox without getting up and touching a remote, and him being able to watch football on the Xbox, that just immediately sold him. So we got an Xbox One right away. But those, as somebody who uses an Xbox, neither of those things are useful. And they're completely different. And the Xbox One was a thing. There's a lot of games I enjoyed at the Xbox One, Fallout 4, For Honor, all these kind of games. It's kind of where you see the rise of a lot more games that are super heavy multiplayer focused, especially for consoles. Yeah. And then
arena based, kind of tournament based, I think is the term I like to use.
Well, yeah. And then there was a lot of games exclusive to the Xbox at the time that I really liked, but really kind of went over the a big one was Sunset Overdrive, which I loved. I still love it to this day, even if it's kind of 50-50 a lot of people. Obviously, it didn't do well enough because I think when Insomniac had those big leaks earlier this year, it was revealed that it had made about $500 in profit. So it did not do well at all. Yeah. But it wasn't that bad. My faith in Xbox didn't start to falter until the Series, because first of all, that name is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. They went from the Xbox One to the Xbox One X to the Xbox Series S and X. And it's the way I think about it is if you tell your grandma, hey, I want an Xbox for Christmas, it's the Xbox Series X. And there's 7 different Xbox products that are all Xbox blank X. It's going to be impossible for somebody to figure that out.
So wait, before I answer this, Kyle, how long have you known me for? Is that 6 years now? That's how I need to answer that question. You need that before I can answer this one.
I don't know.
It's been about 6 years. Yeah.
I want to add into the question of how do you feel about it when you also think that all of the Xbox even Xbox One didn't really have exclusives because they were also on PC.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I'm coming from. So I was weird that I don't know why we didn't evolve technological wise until 2018. We were still basically watching VHS, and I had a PS2 and a PS3. All right. So I was very much in that. And then through that, I started to move to PC, which was then, you're still not paying for subscriptions and stuff, right? Yeah. And then my dad got an Xbox, which is how I met him. And then now suddenly I was just thrust into this. I had to pay for subscriptions. Right? A very jarring kind of thing from going, all these online things are free, I'm just buying games. Right? So, I hate it personally. I think it's stupid. Yeah. I think having to buy an online thing and then like buying the game, buying online, and then all this other crap with battle passes, I think it's stupid. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's so much spending. It's so much like the battle pass thing, whatever. But just having to buy the game, then buying the online stuff is just so much of a hassle, right? Like if I'm gonna spend $60 on something, right, to play with my friends, yeah, why am I spending another this much every month or every year to then play with them, right? Like I just sunk how much money into this game, you know?
Yeah.
And I just
I bought this Xbox One X and I fired it up and I was like, I had to like sort of like remind myself, like I bought this for the backwards compatibility because I keep seeing all these Xbox One games and they're on the store or they're at the shop and I'm like, I could just buy these on my PC, like and play them better there. So this device feels, other than the backwards compatibility,
if you have a PC,
this device
it's like,
is useless.
Yeah.
Well, it's like the only time I'll ever go back and play D1 is when I boot up my PS3. I will not buy it. Like I played the trial, but I will not buy it on console because I like on Xbox One or on a PS4 because I feel no need to pay for an online subscription. You know what I mean? Right? When I can go back to my PS3, I don't even know if the multiplayer is still. I haven't booted it up in a couple of years, but like where I can go back and just play online for free. Yeah. Like I feel no need. You know what I mean? Right? Like. I think it's ridiculous. I think the fact that I
Ben's pacing. I can hear the squeak.
Oh, no, I did. I might have gotten out of the chair. I think it's ridiculous that I don't know. You sink. And
I
especially
remember how big
of
a
games
deal it
now.
was for PlayStation. Remember how big a deal it was for PlayStation to say that they were charging for the subscription for PlayStation Online, because that was one of the selling features why we got it. I mean, not necessarily why we got a PS3, but like it was one of the things that you would hold high, like regards. It's like, oh, those Xbox fanboys, they gotta pay for a subscription, and meanwhile I'm over here paying for it and also a PS3.
Yeah.
You know what? You know what the most egregious one to have a subscription was, like console wise? I think it's the Switch. I remember when the Switch announced that they were gonna make you pay for online, and I sat there and I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? What games are you playing online? Animal Crossing and like Smash?" And you want me to pay like what was it, like $12 a month or whatever? Like it was more than Xbox. Like this is insane.
That's where I feel like Xbox and PlayStation have flipped, because like I have both. Obviously, I like the exclusives. Like I like God of War and Ghost of Tsushima and all that stuff like that. But like whenever I look at it, like when I think about like if I need online for PlayStation, because the only online game I play on there is Helldivers. Because I don't have a PC. And I'm looking at Xbox, like at least Xbox, like I can rationalize to myself that like, I mean, I've already been in this ecosystem forever. I have 700 something games on the Xbox plus, like I pay for Game Pass Ultimate, so I just have kind of an access to like their massive catalog. And then I look at PlayStation, and it's like PlayStation Plus, which is, you know, their one, which comes with their games and stuff. It doesn't even include all of their games, like all of their first party games, in the same way Xbox does. But it's almost twice the price. And I'm like, how does PlayStation just get away with this? They're charging like twice as much for like half as much value. And it's like almost entirely flipped from like what you're saying, like where it used to be that like they didn't charge at all. And then you had Xbox Gold, and then they started charging, and now Sony's charging way more for a lot less.
Yeah. I think that's why I'll never, because I had a PS4 for a little bit. I thought, well, if I'm playing on PlayStation, might as well. You know what I mean? Hard go into the PS4, and then I don't know. I'm kind of happy I didn't, because I feel like I'd be stuck as a PS5 user paying way more. Yeah. You know what I mean? Right? Like I'm happy I made the change.
To get a hold of.
Oh, for sure. Like, you know what I think my biggest disappointment with gaming today, and with them like with the disc drives and all that stuff. So I think one of my favorite experiences of being younger and even playing on the Wii or the PS3 was like going to like GameStop or whatever. Yeah. And like siphoning through like the used shit and being like, look it, I found a funny game.
He's got the games. He's
about to pull out a GameStop sign.
He's actually got the keys to a GameStop store. He's
the owner of the GameStop.
all that stock dropped, and he picked them all. Oh my god!
Holy
That's
shit!
the collection that I've picked up over the last month from a local GameStop, or not a GameStop, a local like used game shop that's in the area.
Yeah,
like one of those stores that's like in the corner of a mall.
Like I don't think anything will ever top that experience of you know, like you're super excited to get this game, whatever. You know, you get your money from your allowance or wherever it's from, and you go and you sift through all this shit, right? And you're sifting, you're looking through the game. You know what I mean? And if you find it, and it's like super fucking exciting to find it. I don't get that same feeling from clicking 3 buttons on my Xbox and going, "Your game has been purchased." You know what I mean?
Yeah, I went back to the local shop this last weekend, and I found a copy of Red Dead Redemption and a copy of Undead Nightmare, and both of those are on the backwards compatible with the upscaling. So I was like, these were $12 total, and if I were to go to buy it on the digital shop, it's like $40 to get their like their whatever version it was that they like remastered. They said remastered. It wasn't really.
It's not even.
You gotta.
And
love
even
that.
then, like, I get to see it on my shelf. Like, I get to walk by and be like, "Oh, look at that colorful case."
Yeah.
Yep.
I can't get over that.
That's why I still do it. That's why I'll go back out when I can and I'll buy old PS3 games that I used to play that I don't have anymore, or Xbox games I bought online. It's like for the look of it. You know what I mean? Right? Just to like see it there, it's physically there. And it feels cool. It feels better. You know?
Well, that's why I like something like I collect Warhammer and stuff, right? Like it's expensive as hell. It's way more expensive than it needs to be, but it feels a lot better buying something like Warhammer little toy soldiers than like going into Overwatch and dropping $50 on like a skin or something like that.
Hey, whoa! Now hear me out. Leave me alone here. You leave my girlfriend alone. Hold on.
Are you? So wait. I hear an Overwatch fan or Overwatch stan is in this chat. So, how do you feel about the fact that we're now coming back to Overwatch plus a map pack and new characters?
Yeah, they go back to 6v6.
It's so funny. It's so funny because it's. I've been sitting there and I'm like, I can't wait till they just sit there and go, shit, we were wrong. Yeah, because I don't know. The game sucks as it is, and I don't think they can make it worse, personally. Right, but maybe that's coming from like a tank main. Yeah.
As somebody who's like
coming from a
been
tank
on the
player
outside of Overwatch, like I was not big into Overwatch when it first came out. Like I only started getting into Overwatch like the last couple months because like Ben, you and everyone in the Discord was playing it. But like as somebody on the outside, I feel like I'm not surprised at all. Like when this is the company we're talking about that like 2 years ago was in the news because they were drinking other people's breast milk at work. I'm not surprised that like the game is just like an entire egregious mess.
You want to know why I think it's happening personally? It's because did they get a new like developer and everything, or like
I know the president of Blizzard left like right before Overwatch 2.
It's under new management, and I truly think that's a good sign. Yeah, and I think they fucked up with 5v5. I think they've broken a lot of the ways the game works. I still don't think it's gonna be fun. Don't get me wrong. Every single time I get onto it, I'm like, here's another horrible experience. So hyped. I don't know. Like I said, maybe it's just the tank player in me that just needs to hate the game and needs to like get mad. But I saw this coming and I saw this happening. I mean, it's
not necessarily a modern gaming problem, but it is a game design problem that you like play a game for as long as you do, as repetitive as it is.
Yeah,
there's like really only one outcome of that, and that's people getting upset with the game the longer that they play it.
Oh, for sure.
I don't really see like any scenario, even if the game was good, where like the vast majority of people would say that they are enjoying themselves while playing it because of just the design of these games. It's like Rainbow Six Siege. I hear that.
Oh, for sure.
Even from like high level players. I'm not like big into that. The people who are still like massively into PUBG, the people who are in the league, like
I think when Overwatch's defense, it's somebody who still plays a lot of it. It's not even the fact that I've been playing for a long time. It's just that, like, objectively, the way they balance their game is just really sucks ass. Yeah, and and there's been a few times now it's even in the favor of tank, which is my main role, and it still sucks ass, right? You know what I mean? Like, and not in like I'm not having fun. Like, I still have a lot of fun, and I do have some good things about to say. It's more the balancing issue that I have with it, right? And it's how they'll give attention to characters, at least on like the majority of like players, like level that the players are on, like the majority that don't need the attention, and they'll leave characters that do need it that just rip through everybody, right? Like I enjoy a lot of the games. Like, do you play Overwatch at all?
I've played a little bit. I haven't played it since like, right when it came out.
Okay, so there's like, do you like see any of the news or anything about it? Like, do you know who Maui is?
Oh, I follow a lot. Yeah.
Okay, so like when a Maui comes into the game, or like sometimes an Orisa, immediately my brain's like, I want to quit. right? Because I already know it's going to happen. Yeah, because they're going to rip through me, they're going to annihilate me, and I don't want to play anymore. Like, that's my issue, right?
Yeah, this is the Pike issue with League of Legends, and
yeah.
I played a lot of League of Legends. Like, you got to remember, League of Legends came out.
Yeah.
It was like season 2 when I was going to college.
Yeah.
Or season 3, I think. So like, yeah, I mean, I remember going to like, we would take our computers into this one big auditorium and we'd all play like ARAM tournaments and stuff like that. That was so much fun. Back when they had a great like college scene where you could like say that here's our college club, and then Riot would just give you codes to give away for your tournaments.
I think in the defense of Overwatch. Sorry, I'm not trying to dick ride it. So as somebody who's been playing Destiny for almost 10 years, right? Yeah, I can tell you there is a strong difference between how people hate on Overwatch and how people hate on Destiny. Because Destiny's just like in a really shitty place. Yeah, and has been for a long time. Like, and I love the game, have so much nostalgia for it, but it's the way that, I mean, Kyle, didn't they like say, well, you guys weren't spending enough money, so we had to fire half of our employees?
That was their excuse,
to the community.
Yeah. They laid off.
That was their excuse. Like the devs don't care anymore. They're just throwing it in the shitter. You know what I mean? Where I think Overwatch is turning into a point that I think the new dev team and everybody, the new management, actually is caring and trying to fix it. Right? You know what I mean? And I think there's
with Bungie, you also have a team that like they're kind of done with, like the final shape is their end point, and they're kind of trying to move on to like Marathon and other games now. Yeah, and I think they've been done with it for a while. Like, and it's just, God, I love Destiny and hate it at the same time so much. Yeah. Oh, I just shoved a table up my ass. Fuck. That's wild. Well, sorry. Jesus Christ. With the mention of League, I will never not clown on people for playing League, but I did want to bring this up. We've been talking about video games for almost 2 hours straight now. I wanted to bring up and ask you, the man behind the retrospectives, what kind of like things do you get up to besides video games that you like have for lobbies? Because like, speaking of League, me and my fiance just finished watching Arcane, like literally last night or 2 nights ago. And I was like, damn, this is a really good story. I still don't want to play League, but it's a good show. And if you're into like any like TV shows or anything like that, like outside of video games.
Yeah. You can see it's a little bit off on the frame. I got a bunch of guitars. I'm a huge metalhead, so I've got 6-string, 7-string, and an 8-string there. I do a little bit of recording here or there. Yeah. That's kind of like the other thing that I will spend my time on. So if I'm like really not feeling like editing, usually I will try to play a game, but even if I'm not feeling that either, I will just pick up the guitar and just work on scales or dive into just playing some old stuff that I have written. Yeah. Instruments are fun, man. That's pretty much it. Like Spotify, you know, the way I get to work, I get to listen to music all the time. So Spotify actually was like, you listened to this song, like this one album for like 200 hours. Like last year, and I was like, man, that's kind of depressing, but also that album kicks ass. So
which album was that?
It's the new album from Currents is the name of the band. It's a metalcore band out of Connecticut. Yeah.
So I've got a really wild question for you. Yeah. Out of curiosity, so you talk a lot about the games that you like. What's like your number one like least favorite game?
Least favorite game?
Like least favorite, like you'll never, no matter what anybody tells you, you'll never play it again.
Frontlines.
That's a hard question because as negative as like even I can be, I try to like not think of things that way. That's fair. Stay on a like more positive note. So it's hard. It is hard for me to think about games that I've hated. I can think about the games that I like maybe rented and took back because they were so bad.
Well, just one of them then, or like just a bad game, like the one that really sticks out in your mind that you remember being just like horrible. Maybe not hated, but it was just horrible. Yeah.
Shit. Gosh, I can't even think of any of them. Like
not even Judgment.
as bad as Judgment is, I don't think it meets like a floor. It meets a floor.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, because
I'll
there's a
even give
difference
it
between
that.
something that's like that sucks and then like that's bad. Because there's those games like Ride to Hell Retribution or whatever, where it's like that's like objectively a bad game, but that's just like a bad game to be a bad game. It's not like it wasn't trying to be a good game to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I don't think I like keep those games in like my memory. I just kind of
That's
move
fair.
on.
That's fair.
I know one of them that's on my list though is Fracture. It's by LucasArts. Like I remember,
I think
that was one of the games I rented, and I remember
think I
taking
know
it
what
back
you're
and being like,
talking
I need
about.
a different game, and it's on my shelf. It's in that stack for future video because I really want to give it like an effort.
Yeah,
But on the flip side, if you want to know like some of my favorite games that are a little bit
For
more
sure.
like, hidden gems,
for sure.
Vanquish is a game from the Xbox 360 era that is available on the Xbox Series and the One. It's also available on PC. Is the best way to play it because the frame rate is great on PC. It's just like this super high action, fast paced third person shooter with cover mechanics. But your character is like cyborg, like kind of Raiden from Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. So you've got like rocket boosters in your knees and your ankles, and you like slide around and shoot. And it's Capcom, and it's just so much fun.
I think I know what you're talking about. That sounds so familiar to me, like the name and everything.
So there's that one, and then my favorite game of all time is I'm still trying to find a damn copy for the original Xbox, but it's Prince of Persia and the Sands of Time.
I played that on the fucking Wii.
No, you probably played Forgotten Sands.
It was a sand something, but nonetheless, it was a lot of fun.
One on Forgotten Sands.
Well, I still had a lot of fun. Leave me alone.
Okay. The Sands of Time is far and away like one of the best games of all time.
I know I played one also on console or whatever.
It also came out like I have this like memory of like getting it for Christmas, and it was like the original Xbox. Like, no, I think I got it on PS2 too, but I remember it was like 2003, like right as all the consoles were really coming out, and I was at a Best Buy and just playing it like at the demo case, and then being like, I need this for Christmas. So just a good memory, but like I go back and I actually play that game a lot, and I love it. It's up there with like the Batman Arkham City. It's like probably in that same tier list for me.
That's a strong one.
It's my favorite game.
What do you think of the new Persia game that just came out at the beginning of this year? Have you played it?
Yeah, I was playing it on my Steam Deck on a couple of trips that I had. I like it. I mean, it's probably my favorite Metroidvania to have come out in a little while. But other than Hollow Knight, I think Hollow Knight's probably the best. To come out in the last decade.
100%.
So
wait, did you say you had a Steam Deck?
Yeah, I have a Steam Deck. I'm actually gonna sell it.
How do you like it though? For like when you do use it, like, do you think it's worth the purchase? Like, in your opinion?
Well, he's selling it.
Okay,
I use it once every like 6 months or 9 months.
Okay.
Only when I travel.
Fair enough.
I have a gaming PC here. And then I have, the consoles, and I'm not someone who likes playing games in bed or sitting on the couch. Sometimes I'll sit on the couch and maybe just let the wife watch some trash TV while I play, or during football season. During football season, there's the hobby. Actually, you asked about hobby.
Okay.
Football season comes around, we get 4 TVs out, and we get all of our laptops and computers hooked up, and we watch every single game all at once. My wife and I are both into fantasy football, so we just get
fair enough.
Your ultimate team.
Fair enough.
What's your team?
I win. What's that?
What's your team then?
Like the NFL team?
Yeah.
Yeah, Seahawks. Seattle.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know why
even I knew
heard
that.
Seahawks, and for some reason I was thinking the Eagles.
Even I knew that.
I'm not super familiar with football. I know Green Bay because I listened to my dad yell about it from across the house when I was growing up, but I was never big in football.
Yep. We're a 49ers household.
Okay, you're Canadian.
Fine.
Shut
That's
up.
fair.
We watch it. Leave me alone.
I am gonna have to run here, guys. the little
yes.
one has woken up crying. So
That's
fortunately,
Yeah,
I'm
I
gonna have to
felt
cut
that.
it short and go make sure she gets back to sleep.
We've
Yeah,
been
of
going.
course.
It's past midnight for me anyway, so it's probably time to wrap it up.
Yeah, and I got some work runs to do.
I feel
So
I feel like we talked a lot about content creation before we recorded. So
We-
if you ever want to
Oh, for
have me
sure.
back on, so we can have revisit that
It has been
conversation,
a
reach out
fantastic
anytime.
time. We'd be happy
for sure.
to bring it back. I'll let you know.
Oh, 110%.
But it's been a great
Let me
time.
give my boomer
wonderful
takes.
conversation. Yeah, whenever that happens or whatever, whenever we sit down to have a chance to play Lost Planet 2, we'll get back into that. Yeah, but
Yeah.
for now we'll leave it there. Ice Cold Snake on YouTube. Do you on any other platforms, anything like that?
Just YouTube.
Just YouTube? Okay. Ice Cold Snake on YouTube. It'll be linked down below. Go check it out. Really, really good videos. Makes me envious because I feel like I don't put any effort in, and then I watched your Gears of War video and I was like, damn it, this is somebody who actually puts effort into their videos.
They are quite the fun watch. I will give them that. Yeah, I quite enjoyed them myself.
It's good stuff. I'm really, unironically, really looking forward to that Gears 2 one. I'm excited to see
too.
how that comes out. But
Yeah, I will say I was feeling a little down on myself as I was working through the script, but as I HUD it all, the voiceover up into its radio edit, I am so looking forward to getting through it. There's just so much about the
start to see it, like, come
multiplayer,
together.
and it is gonna be a little bit different, I will say, than the last one, because it's not gonna have quite as much like, oh, look at this router and remember the dazzle and remember this, remember that.
yeah,
But a little bit more tried and true of like, here's what it was playing it back then.
that'll
Yeah.
be a fun watch. Looking forward to
And
it.
I am super excited for it.
Yeah.
I truly am.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
this has been us. This has been Ice Cold Snake. Go check him out. We will see you next time. And as always, Ben,
Go fuck yourselves, I guess.
way to put all of your energy into it. Way to be like
Sorry.
so
Go
enthusiastic.
fuck yourself.
That's still
that
now
better?
you're just angry. Now you're not putting any. You're just angry now.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.